Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov, and Shavua Tov, and Chodesh Tov. So we are continuing in Siman Reish Nun Gimel regarding warming up foods on Shabbat, CHAZARA, returning items to their heat sources. And we spoke about already about ovens, where returning food into an oven on Shabbat is not allowed because it's mechzikim avashel. It looks like you're cooking. That's what we do. We put foods into an oven to cook it, to bake it. The Mishnah Brura, the Chafetz Chaim, has a chidush. Maybe it's not so much of a chidush, but says that if the oven is off, or if the oven is just warm, where it's not to the point at all of yad soliditbo, it's not to the point at all of any cooking level, less than 45 degrees, 45 Celsius. So it's maybe a little bit warm or cold. You could put things in the oven. Why would you want to put it there? Maybe for storage. You could put things in the oven. You're not worried because you're not cooking in this. It's not an oven at this moment. It's a storage place, or it's cool. It's not. So therefore, one could put things, food or other things, in the oven. I know that in Israel, when I was living in Israel, and I've seen this with others as well when we were there. You live in a small apartment, and after Shabbat meal, and especially if you have guests, where do you put the dirty plates or whatever? Some people put in the oven. After the oven, the timer goes off. So you put in the oven so that you wash your stuff afterwards. You don't have like two sinks, or you don't have, we had one sink there. We put stuff in the oven, and then we washed it Motzei Shabbat. So that could be done on Shabbat. Now, let's continue where we left off in Seif Hey, Siman Reish Nun Gimel. The Shulchan Aruch says, because we spoke about putting a already cooked item on top of your pot of, let's say, your dafina, your chamin. So you put it on top to heat up, to warm up, and even though the pot itself is very hot, and that's maybe on the fire, but now you put it just on top of it. So we said that's okay. But the Shulchan Aruch says, "Aval lehatmin tachat begadim hanetunim al gabei hamecham vaday asur." But to insulate, putting this food on top of your chamin, and on that chamin there's blankets. Maybe the elders here have seen their parents or grandparents. They would insulate their chamin with blankets and things like that to keep things warm. So you can't insulate on Shabbat. You can't take already cooked item. Let me put it on top of this. These blankets that are on top of my dafina that's on the heat source. Now let me just insulate it in that. You can't do that on Shabbat. So if there's no blankets there, it's fine. We spoke about. But if there's blankets, insulating, no. So the reason, now we're not going to get fully into the laws of hatmana, but the general reason for hatmana is because if we were to allow it, then often this is not such a foolproof method of warming up your food. And often it still remains cold in this method, and therefore one might come and start a fire or stoke a fire in order to get that item hot. So to prevent that, Chachamim were not into hatmana, not into fully insulating items. Now it's not just with blankets, it's with other items as well, and we'll get to that topic when we get there. But because the Shulchan Aruch does mention it here, I did want to mention that piece. So even asur latmin davar yavesh or chala, under begadim, that's on top of a kedera, on top of a plata, that's also, again, not to be done. Okay, that's that for today's halachot. A few announcements I put on the chat late on Friday that unfortunately Mrs. Joel Perez, or do you remember, her father, Mr. Jacques Sabach, passed away in New York. The funeral is today at 1 p.m. in Brooklyn, New York. If you do have contacts there, there's still 2 people short committed for the minyan. So if you have some contacts out there in Brooklyn, New York, that can do a mitzvah today at 1 p.m., that'd be greatly appreciated. You could circle back to me for commitments, so I could pass it on to the family. Mincha tonight at 6:20. We're getting earlier and earlier, 6:20 this week. And also everyone's invited for breakfast today, sponsored by Eli, L'ilui Nishmat, his father. That will be after tefillah. Have a good day, everyone.